The sky above Seoul turned dark at exactly 7:43 inches the morning. General Park Do-hyun was drinking his second cup of coffee when his phone rang. He answered it and heard his aide screaming about something in the sky. He walked to his window and looked up. His coffee cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. A ship hung in the sky. It was not like anything humans had ever built. It was black and enormous, stretching across the horizon like a floating mountain. Smaller ships surrounded it, hundreds of them, moving in perfect formation. The general had spent 30 years in the military. He had seen wars and disasters and terrible things, but he had never seen anything like this. Every screen in the world flickered at the same moment. Televisions, phones, computers, even digital billboards on the streets. They all showed the same image. An alien face appeared. It had gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth was wide and filled with small, sharp teeth. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect Korean, perfect English, perfect every language at once. "I am Commander Tolvan of the Velar Dominion," the creature said. "Your planet has been selected for absorption into our empire. You have 6 hours to surrender completely. Your leaders will present themselves to us. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your people will serve us. If you refuse, we will demonstrate our power. We have destroyed 400 worlds. We have erased civilizations older than your species. You are nothing to us. You are insects. Surrender. And some of you will live. Resist. And you will all die. You have 6 hours." The screen went black. General Park stood at his window for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. Within 1 hour, he was standing in the emergency command center beneath the Blue House. Representatives from every major nation appeared on screens around the room. The United Earth Defense Council had been created 5 years ago, but no one had ever expected to actually use it. Now, they had no choice. The Secretary General, Choi Min-ho, called the meeting to order. He was an old man, with white hair and tired eyes. He had spent his life working for peace. Now he had to prepare for war against an enemy from the stars. "We have all seen the message," he said. "We have 5 hours remaining. Our scientists are analyzing their ships. Our military is mobilizing. But we must decide now. Do we surrender? Do we fight? What do we do?" The room was silent. On the screens, world leaders looked at each other with fear in their eyes. General Park watched them all. He understood their fear. The alien ships were huge. Their technology was clearly far beyond anything Earth possessed. Fighting them seemed like suicide. A young captain sitting in the corner of the room made a strange sound. General Park turned to look at her. Captain Lee Yuna was only 28 years old. She was the youngest officer in the room. She was also one of the smartest. She had been recruited straight from university for her brilliant tactical mind. The strange sound came again. It was laughter. Captain Lee was laughing. "Captain," General Park said sharply. "This is not funny." Captain Lee looked up at him. Her eyes were bright, and her smile was wide. She said, "But it is funny. Did you hear what he said? He said we are insects. He said we are nothing. He said he has destroyed 400 worlds." "Yes," the general said. "That is exactly why this is serious." "No, sir," Captain Lee said. She stood up from her chair. "That is exactly why it is funny. He has destroyed 400 worlds. That means 400 species looked at his ships and his weapons, and they gave up. They surrendered. They decided they could not win, so they did not fight, and they all died anyway." She looked around the room at all the frightened faces. "Don't you understand? Surrender is death. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, if we give up, we lose everything. Our freedom, our future, our children's futures. We become slaves, or we become extinct. And if we fight?" someone asked. Captain Lee smiled again. Maybe, she said. But we will die free. We will die fighting. And maybe, just maybe, we will hurt them badly enough that they think twice before attacking the next world. She turned to General Park. Sir, I have studied military history my entire life. Do you know what I learned? I learned that the side that wins is not always the side with the bigger army or the better weapons. Sometimes, the side that wins is simply the side that refuses to lose. The room was quiet again. But this time, the silence felt different. General Park looked at the young captain and felt something warm spread through his chest. It was not hope exactly. It was something older and fiercer than hope. She's right, he said. If we surrender, we are already dead. But if we fight, we have a chance. Maybe a small chance. Maybe a tiny chance. But a chance is better than nothing. Secretary General Choi nodded slowly. Then we fight, he said. May God help us all. General Park turned to his communications officer. Send a reply to the alien commander, he said. What should I say, sir? The general thought for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. Send him a laughing emoji, he said. And tell him, come and take it. The message was sent. The whole world waited for the response. Commander Tolvan received the message on his flagship. He stared at it for a long time. In his 4 centuries of conquest, he had received many responses to his ultimatums. He had received begging and pleading. He had received angry threats and desperate promises. He had received silence from species too terrified to speak. He had never received laughter. What does this mean? He asked his aide. Are they mocking us? It appears so, Commander, his aide said nervously. Tolvan felt a strange emotion. It took him a moment to recognize it because he had not felt it in so long. It was anger. Real anger. These primitive creatures, these humans, they dared to laugh at the Velar Dominion? Prepare the ground forces, he said. His voice was cold and hard. We will teach these insects what happens when they laugh at us. We will make them scream. We will make them beg. And then, when they are broken and bleeding, we will make them serve. His officers rushed to obey. The invasion of Earth began, but Commander Tolvan had made a mistake. It was the same mistake that conquerors had made throughout history. He thought that laughter meant the humans were not taking him seriously. He thought it meant they were foolish or insane. He did not understand that humans laughed when they were afraid. He did not understand that they laughed when they were angry. He did not understand that they laughed when they had decided to fight to the death. He did not understand humans at all. And that misunderstanding would cost him everything. The Velar dropships descended on Earth's major cities like metal rain. They came down through the clouds in tight formations, their engines screaming, their weapons glowing with energy. Commander Tolvan had sent his best soldiers for this mission. They were the Iron Fist Legion, veterans of dozens of planetary conquests. They had crushed rebellions and broken resistance movements across the galaxy. They expected this mission to be easy. They were wrong. Sergeant Kim Eunji crouched behind a concrete barrier in the streets of Busan. She was 32 years old and had served in the military for 10 years. She had trained for urban warfare her entire career. She had studied every battle, every siege, every street fight in human history. She knew how to turn a city into a death trap. She watched the alien soldiers march down the main street. They were tall and armored in black metal that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons were strange rifles that fired bolts of blue energy. They moved in perfect formation, confident and unafraid. Why would they be afraid? Their shields could stop bullets. Their armor could resist explosions. Their weapons could cut through walls. Sergeant Kim smiled grimly. She raised her hand and gave the signal. The street exploded. Her team had spent the last 6 hours preparing. They had placed charges in the buildings, in the sewers, under the pavement. They had set up crossfire zones and kill boxes. The aliens had walked right into the trap. The first explosion took out the front of the column. The second explosion took out the back. The aliens were trapped in the middle, surrounded by fire and falling debris. Their shields flickered under the assault. Their formation broke as they tried to find cover. That was when the real attack began. Sergeant Kim's soldiers opened fire from every direction. They used armor-piercing rounds designed to penetrate vehicle plating. They used rocket launchers and grenades. They used anything and everything they had. The aliens fired back with their energy weapons, cutting through walls and melting steel. Several of Kim's soldiers died in the first minute. But more aliens died. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the Iron Fist Legion's 1st Battalion had been destroyed. Sergeant Kim stood in the smoking ruins and counted her losses. She had lost 40 soldiers. The aliens had lost over 200. It was a victory. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Similar battles were happening all over the world. In Tokyo, resistance fighters collapsed a subway tunnel on top of an alien column. In New York, snipers picked off alien officers from half a mile away. In Cairo, civilians used construction equipment to crush alien vehicles in narrow streets. Everywhere the aliens went, they found resistance. Hard, bloody, desperate resistance. Commander Tolvan received the reports on his flagship and felt his anger grow. These humans were not behaving correctly. Conquered species were supposed to run and hide. They were supposed to be terrified of Velar technology. They were not supposed to fight back this hard. He decided to send a message. He chose Seoul as his target. The orbital bombardment began at midnight. Tolvan's ships fired their main weapons at the city. Each blast carried enough energy to level a city block. The humans would see their capital burn. They would understand that resistance was hopeless. The first blast hit the city's shield and stopped. Tolvan stared at his screen in disbelief. Seoul had shields. That was impossible. Shield technology required decades of development. The humans did not have it. They could not have it. But they did. Dr. Han Jisoo had not slept in 3 days. She was a quantum physicist who worked at the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Before the invasion, she had been working on theoretical models of faster-than-light communication. It was pure research, with no practical application. At least, that was what she had thought. When the aliens arrived, she had been pulled into a secret government project. Her job was to study the alien transmissions and find weaknesses. She had gathered a team of the best scientists in the world. They worked in a bunker deep underground, surrounded by computers and equipment. In 48 hours, they had done the impossible. They had analyzed the alien shield technology and figured out how to copy it. It was not perfect. The human version was weaker and used more power. But it worked. It actually worked. When the bombardment began, Dr. Han watched her screens nervously. The shield generators were untested. They might fail at any moment. The alien weapons were incredibly powerful, far beyond anything she had calculated. The shields held. Dr. Han let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Around her, her team cheered and hugged each other. They had just saved millions of lives. But she knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would adapt. They would find ways around the shields. She needed to stay ahead of them. She needed to find more weaknesses, more advantages. She turned back to her computers and kept working. On the ground, the fighting continued. The aliens learned quickly. They started using different tactics, different formations. They brought in heavier weapons and more soldiers. But the humans learned too. They learned how to disable alien shields with electromagnetic pulses. They learned how to jam alien communications. They learned how to turn the aliens' own technology against them. A teenage boy named Baek Siwoo became famous during these days. He was 17 years old and lived in Busan. He was a computer genius who had been hacking systems since he was 12. When the invasion started, he gathered his friends and formed a group they called the Busan Brats. They started by hacking into alien communication networks. They listened to enemy transmissions and sent the information to the military. Then they got bolder. They found ways into the alien drone control systems. They turned the drones against their masters. Alien soldiers started dying from their own weapons. Siwoo worked from a basement filled with computers and energy drinks. He barely slept. His eyes were red, and his hands shook from too much caffeine. But he kept working. Every drone he turned, every system he broke, meant more humans would survive. They're not so tough, he told his friends. Their security is garbage. They've never had to deal with hackers before. They don't even know what we're doing. He was right. The Valar had conquered species with superior technology and species with vast armies. They had never conquered a species that fought with such creativity, such adaptability. Every time they closed one hole, the humans found another. Every time they solved one problem, the humans created 3 more. Commander Tolvan called a meeting with his senior officers. The invasion was not going according to plan. They had expected to control the planet within a week. Instead, they were bogged down in endless urban warfare. They were losing soldiers at an unacceptable rate. The humans were not breaking. We need to change our approach, Tolvan said. We need to show them that resistance is truly hopeless. We need to break their spirit. His officers agreed. They began planning a new strategy, something that would crush human morale once and for all. But they still did not understand what they were dealing with. They did not understand that humans had faced extinction before. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. They had been knocked down again and again throughout their history, and every time, they had gotten back up. The Valar were about to learn why. Commander Tolvan stood in the interrogation room of his flagship and studied the human prisoner. She was small, much smaller than a Valar soldier. Her uniform was torn and dirty. There was blood on her face from a cut above her eye. Her name was O'Mire. She was a private in the Korean army, 24 years old. She had been captured during a raid on a Valar supply depot. The raid had been successful. Her team had destroyed thousands of tons of alien equipment before they were surrounded. Most of her squad had died fighting. She had been taken alive only because she ran out of ammunition. Tolvan had ordered her brought to him personally. He wanted to understand these humans. He wanted to know why they kept fighting. He wanted to know how to break them. You are going to die, he told her. His voice was calm and cold. Nothing can change that. But you can choose how you die. You can die quickly and painlessly. Or you can die slowly, in great agony. The choice is yours. Private O looked up at him. Her eyes were dark and steady. She did not look afraid. What do you want? She asked. Information, Tolvan said. Tell me about your military defenses. Tell me about your shield technology. Tell me where your leaders are hiding. Private O laughed. It was not a bitter laugh or a mocking laugh. It was a genuine laugh. Like she had just heard a funny joke. You think I know any of that? She said. I'm a private. I don't know anything important. I just point my gun where they tell me and shoot. Tolvan felt his anger rising. Then tell me something else, he said. Tell me why you keep fighting. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are weak. You have no ships, no fleet, no way to fight us in space. You must know that you cannot win. So why do you fight? Private O thought about this for a moment. Then she smiled. You really don't understand, do you? She said. You've conquered all these worlds, and you still don't understand. Explain it to me, Tolvan said. We fight because we're human, she said. That's what we do. We fight. We've always fought. We fought each other for thousands of years. We fought over land and resources and ideas. We fought over stupid things and important things. Fighting is in our blood. It's in our bones. You can't scare it out of us. You can't beat it out of us. As long as one human is still alive, they will fight you. Tolvan leaned closer to her. But you will lose, he said. You must know this. We have destroyed entire civilizations. We have weapons that can crack planets. What can you possibly do against that? Private O met his eyes without flinching. Hurt you, she said simply. Maybe we can't beat you. Maybe we'll all die. But we'll hurt you first. We'll make you bleed. We'll make you pay for every inch of our world with your soldiers' lives. Maybe some other species will survive because we made you afraid. Afraid? Tolvan's voice was sharp. The Valar are not afraid of anything. Then why are you here talking to me? Private O asked. Why do you need to understand why we fight? If you're not afraid, why does it matter? Tolvan had no answer for that. He stared at this small, wounded human and felt something he had never felt before. It was not quite fear. It was something like respect. He pushed the feeling away. He could not afford to respect the enemy. Take her to the airlock, he told his guards. Execute her. Private O did not beg. She did not cry. She did not try to bargain for her life. As the guards dragged her away, she laughed. She laughed all the way down the corridor. She laughed as they pushed her into the airlock. She was still laughing when the outer door opened and the vacuum of space took her. Tolvan watched through the window. The sound of her laughter echoed in his mind long after she was gone. He returned to the command center and called a meeting with his war council. His officers gathered around the holographic display table, their faces grim. The invasion was now in its 6th week. They had expected it to be over in 6 days. Sub-Commander Vexra gave the first report. She was Tolvan's most experienced officer, a veteran of 30 planetary conquests. She had never seen anything like this campaign. Our losses are significant, she said. We have lost 12,000 soldiers in ground combat. We have lost 200 armored vehicles and 80 aircraft. 17 of our computer systems have been compromised by human hackers. They have turned our own drones against us in several sectors. How is this possible? Another officer demanded. They are primitives. They should not be able to touch our systems. They are creative, Vexra said. They adapt quickly. Every time we close one vulnerability, they find another. They do not fight the way other species fight. They do not follow predictable patterns. They use tricks and traps and deceptions. They attack our supply lines and our communication networks. They refuse to face us in open battle, where we have the advantage. Tolvan nodded slowly. He had been thinking about this problem constantly. He had studied human history and human psychology. He had tried to understand how they thought, how they made decisions. They are individuals, he said. That is their strength and their weakness. They do not have a hive mind like the Rentai, or a strict hierarchy like the Keldor. Each human thinks for themselves. Each human makes their own choices. That makes them unpredictable. That makes them dangerous. It also makes them disorganized, Vexra pointed out. They argue among themselves constantly. They have different governments and different ideologies. We should be able to use that against them. We tried, Tolvan said. We offered deals to individual nations. We promised them safety if they betrayed their neighbors. None of them accepted. Sane, trusting zero. We rented of the innervasions. We were seeding a piecing zero. And also, we tried pented. We were seed. We were seeding zero. Why not? Tolvan remembered the laughing woman in the airlock. He remembered her words. We fight because we're human. Because they hate us more than they hate each other, he said. We united them. We gave them a common enemy. We made a mistake. The officers were silent. They had all made mistakes in this campaign. They had all underestimated the humans. Now, they were paying for it. What do we do? Vexra asked. Tolvan thought for a long moment. He had one advantage left. His fleet controlled the space around Earth. The humans had no ships, no way to challenge him in orbit. As long as that was true, he would eventually win. It might take months or years, but he would win. We blockade them, he said. We cut them off from resources. We destroy their satellites and their communications. We bomb their cities from orbit, where their shields are weak. We wear them down. We make them suffer until they have nothing left. And then, when they are starving and desperate, we offer them surrender. One more time. His officers nodded. It was a sound strategy. It would take time, but it would work. At least, that was what they thought. They did not know that the humans were building ships of their own. They did not know that Dr. Han Jisoo had cracked the secrets of Velar faster than light travel. They did not know that in hidden shipyards around the world, humanity was preparing to take the war to space. The Velar thought they had all the time in the world. They were wrong. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the fleet assembled before him. It was not much of a fleet. There were 200 ships in total, and most of them were not really warships. They were cargo freighters and passenger liners and mining vessels. They had been converted for combat in shipyards hidden in mountains and underground bunkers. They were held together with welds and prayers. But they were human ships, crewed by human sailors, armed with human weapons. And they were ready to fight. 3 months had passed since the invasion began. 3 months of blood and fire and sacrifice. The Velar had bombed cities and destroyed infrastructure and killed millions of people. But they had not broken humanity. They had not even come close. Now, it was time to hit back. Admiral Yoon had been a submarine commander before the invasion. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and a scarred face. He had spent his life preparing for wars that he hoped would never come. Now the biggest war in human history had come, and he was leading it. All ships report ready, his aide said. Operation Sunrise is a go. Yoon nodded. He had named the operation himself. Sunrise, because they were bringing a new day to humanity. Sunrise, because they were coming out of the darkness. Sunrise, because the Velar were about to see that the night was over. Take us out, he said. The fleet moved. They launched from hidden bases all over Earth, rising through the atmosphere in waves. The Velar detected them immediately. Commander Tolvan's fleet moved to intercept. They outnumbered the humans 3-1. Their ships were bigger and faster and more powerful. This would be easy. The two fleets met above Mars. The Velar opened fire with their energy weapons, expecting to cut through the human ships like paper. But the human shields held. They were not as strong as Velar shields, but they were strong enough. The human ships survived the first volley and kept coming. Then the humans fired back. Dr. Han Jisoo had done more than just copy Velar shield technology. She had studied it, analyzed it, taken it apart, and put it back together. She had found its weakness. Every Velar shield operated on a specific frequency. If you could match that frequency exactly, you could punch right through it. She had built weapons that could do exactly that. The first Velar ship exploded in a ball of fire, then the second, then the third. The Velar commanders stared at their screens in disbelief. Their shields were useless. The human weapons were cutting through them like they were not even there. Panic spread through the Velar fleet. They had never faced an enemy who could hurt them like this. They started to pull back, to regroup, to figure out what was happening. That was when the virus hit. Baek Siwoo had worked on the virus for 2 months. He had studied every Velar system he could access, looking for weaknesses and backdoors. He had found them. The Velar were so confident in their technology that they had never bothered to secure it properly. Why would they? No one had ever been able to hack them before. The virus spread through the Velar fleet like fire through dry grass. It infected their navigation systems and their targeting computers. It corrupted their communication networks and their engine controls. Ships started spinning out of control. Weapons started misfiring. Some ships even shot at each other by accident. Commander Tolvan watched his fleet fall apart around him. For the first time in 400 years, he felt true fear. This was not supposed to happen. This could not be happening. These humans were primitives. They were insects. How were they doing this? Admiral Yoon saw the chaos in the enemy fleet and pressed his advantage. He ordered all ships to attack. The human fleet surged forward, firing everything they had. More Velar ships exploded. More Velar soldiers died. But the battle was not over. The Velar flagship was still operational. Its shields were still working. It was the heart of the enemy fleet. And as long as it survived, the Velar could still win. Lieutenant Shin Hee-jin sat in the cockpit of her ship and looked at the flagship. Her ship was not really a warship. It was a mining vessel, designed to break apart asteroids for their minerals. It had been converted for combat by filling it with explosives. Lots of explosives. She was 26 years old. She had been a pilot for only 2 years. She had volunteered for this mission knowing that she would probably not survive it. "Command, this is Hee-jin," she said into her radio. "I have a clear run at the flagship. Request permission to attack." Admiral Yoon's voice came back immediately. "Negative, Lieutenant. The flagship's shields are too strong. You won't get through." "I'll get through," Hee-jin said. "I know where their shield generator is. Siwoo found it in their systems. If I hit it directly, I can take the whole ship down." There was silence on the radio. Yoon knew what she was saying. He knew what it meant. "Hee-jin," he said quietly, "you don't have to do this. We can find another way." "There is no other way," Hee-jin said. "And there's no time. Every second we wait, more people die. This is my choice, Admiral. Let me make it." Another long silence. Then Yoon's voice came back, heavy with emotion. "Permission granted. Good luck, Lieutenant. And thank you." Hee-jin smiled. She was afraid, but she was not sorry. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother and father, her little brother. They would be sad when they heard about this. But they would understand. They would be proud. She pushed her engines to maximum and flew straight at the flagship. The Velar saw her coming. They fired everything they had at her. Missiles and energy beams and projectiles filled the space around her. Her shields failed. Her hull started to breach. Warning alarms screamed in her cockpit. She kept flying. She hit the flagship's shield generator at full speed. The explosion was enormous. It lit up the sky above Mars like a second sun. The flagship's shields collapsed. A moment later, secondary explosions tore through the ship as its power core went critical. Commander Tolvan had one moment to realize what was happening. Then the bridge exploded around him, and everything went dark. The flagship broke apart. The Velar fleet, already in chaos from the virus, saw their command ship die and lost all coordination. They scattered in every direction, trying to escape. The human fleet pursued them, destroying ship after ship. When it was over, the Velar had lost 60% of their fleet. The rest fled into deep space, running for their lives. Admiral Yoon watched them go on his screen. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet. "We did it," his aide whispered. "We actually did it." Yoon nodded. But he was thinking about Shin Hee-jin. He was thinking about her last words. "For Earth," she had said. Just 2 words. They would be remembered forever. On Earth, people poured into the streets when they heard the news. They cheered and cried and held each other. They had won. Against all odds, against an enemy with superior technology and overwhelming numbers, they had won. But General Park Do-hyun knew this was not the end. The Velar would come back. They would bring more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Humanity had won a battle. But the war was just beginning. They needed to be ready. They needed to take the fight to the stars. They needed to make sure that the Velar never threatened Earth again. The fighting and they needed to find allies. Because out there, somewhere, there were other species who had suffered under Velar rule. Other species who might be ready to fight back. Humanity was going to find them. Commander Tolvan was not dead. He wished he was. He had been pulled from the wreckage of his flagship by a rescue team. He had lost an arm and an eye. His body was covered in burns and scars. But he was alive, and now he had to stand before the Velar High Council and explain his failure. The council chamber was enormous, filled with the most powerful leaders of the Dominion. They sat in a half-circle around him, their faces cold and unforgiving. Behind them, holographic displays showed images of the battle above Mars, the destruction of the flagship, the retreat of the fleet. "You lost 60% of your forces," the High Chancellor said. Her voice was like ice. "You failed to conquer a primitive world. You have brought shame upon the Dominion." Tolvin stood straight despite his injuries. He would not show weakness before the council. "The humans are not primitive," he said. "I made that mistake. I underestimated them. They adapt faster than any species I have ever encountered. They reverse-engineered our technology in days. They hacked our systems. They found weaknesses we did not know existed." "Excuses," another counselor said. "You had the finest fleet in the Dominion. You had the Iron Fist Legion. You should have crushed them in a week." "Yes," Tolvin said. "I should have. But I did not. And now I am telling you why. These humans are dangerous. More dangerous than any species we have conquered before. If we send another fleet, we will lose it too, unless we change our approach entirely." The council members looked at each other. They did not like what they were hearing, but they could not ignore it. Tolven was a veteran of 40 conquests. He had never failed before. If he said the humans were dangerous, they were dangerous. The High Chancellor leaned forward. "What do you suggest?" "We must commit everything," Tolven said. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. We must hit them with so much force that no amount of adaptation can save them. We must reduce their planet to ash." The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they agreed. They ordered the full military might of the Velar Dominion to gather for a second invasion. It would take time to assemble such a force, but when it was ready, it would be unstoppable, or so they thought. They did not know that the humans were not sitting idle. They did not know that humanity had spent the year after their victory building more ships, training more soldiers, developing more weapons. They did not know that the humans were reaching out to the galaxy. Quan Hana had been a diplomat before the invasion. She was 41 years old, with a calm voice and a sharp mind. She had spent her career negotiating trade deals and peace treaties between human nations. Now she was negotiating for the survival of her entire species. She traveled to a dozen worlds in the first 6 months. She met with species the Velar had conquered and species the Velar had threatened. She told them about Earth's resistance. She showed them footage of the battles, of ordinary humans fighting against impossible odds and winning. Most importantly, she told them the truth. "The Velar are not invincible," she said, again and again. "We proved that. We hurt them. We beat them. And if one small planet can do that alone, imagine what we could do together." Some species did not listen. They were too afraid of the Velar. They had been conquered for too long. They had forgotten what it meant to be free. But others listened. The Rethkai, a race of tall insectoid creatures who had lost their homeworld to the Velar centuries ago. The Solari, energy beings who had been forced to serve as power sources for Velar ships. The Vendok, fierce warriors who had been enslaved and forced to fight in gladiatorial games. They all listened. And they all remembered. "We have waited so long," the Rethkai ambassador told Hana. "We thought there was no hope. We thought the Velar would rule forever. But you, humans, you showed us something different. You showed us that it is possible to fight back. Will you help us?" Hana asked. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then, he made a sound that Hana's translator rendered as laughter. "Yes," he said. "We will help you, and may the stars have mercy on the Velar, because we will not." When the Velar armada finally assembled and jumped toward Earth, They expected to find a broken planet waiting for them. They expected easy prey. Instead, they found a coalition. Ships from a dozen species hung in space around Earth. Human ships and HFY ships and Solari ships and Vendok ships. Old enemies fighting side by side. Conquered peoples standing together. All of them ready to fight. The Valar High Chancellor saw the fleet on her screens and felt something she had never felt before. She felt afraid. How is this possible? She demanded. These species hate each other. They have fought wars against each other for millennia. How are they working together? End quote. One of her officers answered quietly. The humans united them. They did something we never thought possible. They made the galaxy hope again. The battle that followed was the largest in galactic history. Thousands of ships fought in the space around Earth. Millions of soldiers clashed in brutal combat. The fighting lasted for 3 weeks. It was devastating. It was horrible. And the Valar lost. Their empire did not fall in that battle. It took another decade for that. But the battle broke their power. It showed the galaxy that the Dominion could be beaten. Rebellions erupted on 100 conquered worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up and fought for their freedom. The humans were there to help them. Wherever there was a rebellion, human ships arrived to provide support. Wherever there was a fight against tyranny, human soldiers stood with the oppressed. The humans did not want to build their own empire. They did not want to conquer anyone. They just wanted to make sure that no one else would ever face what they had faced. You are strange creatures, the HFY ambassador told Quanhana after the final victory. You almost died. Your planet almost burned. And now, you spend your time and treasure helping others? Hana smiled. That's what humans do, she said. We remember what it was like to be helpless. We remember what it was like to be afraid. And we decided that we would never let anyone else feel that way, if we could stop it. Centuries passed. The galaxy changed. New civilizations rose and fell. New challenges appeared. But the story of Earth was never forgotten. It was told on 1,000 worlds, in 1,000 languages. It was told to children at bedtime and to soldiers before battle. It was the story of a small planet that laughed at death. A primitive species that refused to kneel. A people who took the worst the universe could throw at them and threw it right back. The story always ended the same way. The universe is vast and dark. There are horrors in it beyond imagination. There are powers that can crush worlds and extinguish stars. And it would be easy to look at all that darkness and decide that hope is foolish. That resistance is pointless. That the only sensible thing to do is surrender. But there is another choice. You can look at the darkness and laugh at it. You can fight even when you cannot win. You can stand up even when you are knocked down. You can refuse to give up. Refuse to give in. Refuse to let the darkness have the last word. That is what the humans did. And in doing so, they changed everything. The galaxy learned many things from humanity. They learned about science and art and music. They learned about democracy and justice and rights. But the most important thing they learned was simpler than all of that. They learned to laugh at tyrants. They learned that hope is not foolish. They learned that the darkness can be beaten, and they never forgot.